Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, get yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Popcorn Wine Down. Thank you for joining us. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
And this week we will be talking about Amazon's Jack Ryan. But first, let's get to the wind down. Unfortunately, we're starting off with another reminder of just how fucking awful 2020 really is. I want to give a rest in peace, rest in power to Chadwick Boseman. He unfortunately passed away this weekend after a 4-year battle with colon cancer. And for those of you who don't know, Chadwick Boseman played the Black Panther as well as several other iconic roles. And it's really sad. I remember seeing over the last couple years pictures of him on the internet, and people were like, "What's wrong with Chadwick Boseman?" Because he was looking really skinny, there were some pictures where he looked really sick, and he was battling cancer, and he filmed Black Panther, The Five Bloods, 21 Bridges, 42 and Marshall, all while battling cancer. So. And also all the other Marvel movies that he did, Infinity War and Civil War and all of that. So.
My favorite movie for him is actually 42. I love sports biography movies, but my favorite movie for him was 42. Like, I know everybody's talking about how, playing Black Panther and being part of the Marvel universe. But that was his most iconic role, was playing Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. And yeah, like there's protests online now. Like, they're trying to get Marvel to stop from recasting the role of Black Panther. And I guess they want to kill off Black Panther with Chadwick. And I am completely and totally against that. But,
Me too. I think it's too soon actually to start having that conversation. Like, really, maybe recap
Hollywood. Not with them starting. What is it, phase 4? I mean, people may say like, oh, it's a little insensitive, but at the end of the day, like, it's a conversation that has to be had. Like, I'm sure they start the conversation as soon as it's announced, but I just don't think Black Panther should be recast. I don't think that they should kind of like let the character die with Chad.
And I agree with that. I do. I think Black Panther is too iconic of especially given the landscape where we don't have a lot of superheroes and minority superheroes, and I think he is too iconic of a character to not carry on. But also, again, considering that the second movie isn't going to come out for a while, I still say, let them. It's too early to have that conversation in full, but I get it. I do. I understand the logistics and the business of it, but yeah. And I actually agree with you on the fact that I think you should recast Black Panther, even if it's not T'Challa, but a different Black Panther, because the characters go on, and a lot of the superheroes are played by different people and different iterations of those things. Also, Cliff Robinson, rest in peace. He was a basketball player, and he was also on season 29 of Survivor. He passed away at the age of 53, and he played in NBA for 16 years. So, like I said, it's just another reminder of how this year is really, really, I'm ready for it to be done.
But Wakanda forever.
Yeah, Wakanda forever. Also, sticking with sports, something amazing happened this week, and it started with the Milwaukee Bucks. They protested or boycotted their basketball game, their playoff game against the Orlando Magic, and it started a domino effect. that I don't think anyone saw coming. The Bucks were totally prepared to forfeit that game. By the end of the day, all the rest of the NBA teams were not playing. And hockey, it spread to hockey, baseball, football.
Shoot, it went to hockey?
It went to hockey, tennis. The two surprises were hockey and baseball, because, you know, those are majority white sports and they really don't too much take over. They don't get into politics like that. Right. And so, but tennis. So by the end of this week, all the teams had boycotted, protested. They had not played a game. Yesterday was Jackie Robinson Day in baseball, a day that they always recognize. And every player on every team always wears the number 42. Well, the Astros and the Mariners, I believe, were playing in Houston. They took the field for 42 seconds. They quietly walked off the field and they left a Black Lives Matter jersey on home plate in Houston, Texas. So it just kind of shows that a lot of these teams, it's not performative. A lot of these teams are taking this social justice movement really to heart. And considering that a lot of the professional sports teams are made up of majority Black athletes, it's nice to see that they're using their voice for change. And this was in protest of the James Blake shooting in Wisconsin. And also the NBA has announced that they are turning all of their arenas into all of the major NBA cities into polling places in November. So anyone living in a city with an NBA team, you know at least one place where you can go and vote, and that's going to be at that local arena where your sports team plays. So that's just a cross section of politics and pop culture and how the world is more intertwined and connected in a lot of ways these days. So having said that, I will say go out and vote November 3rd. Guess what happened this weekend, Tammy?
What happened?
I know you're going to be excited. The movie theaters reopened, and I did check here in our hometown, and they are reopened. The AMC theaters are at 40% capacity, and they said that you do have to wear a mask in before, during, after the movie, unless you're eating or drinking on snacks.
How are they going to regulate that in a dark theater?
I do not know, but I'm just telling you what I read on the site. And the movie that kicked off the highest grossing movie of the weekend is probably going to be New Mutants, which is great for New Mutants because this movie has been delayed for like 2 years because everyone said it sucked. I'm just going by what, the word of mouth is. So it should get about $8 million, which on a regular weekend would be horrible. But considering these are pandemic times and the movies are just now opening, then that should be a good thing. And also out this weekend was Bill and Ted Strike Back, the third sequel in the Bill and Ted series with Keanu Reeves and Alex Winters reprising their roles as grown-ass Bill and Ted. So they
Never
have
seen
families
the first
now.
one or the second one, so.
They were like a cult classic, especially the first one, but I'm not a big Bill and Ted fan, but I do love Keanu Reeves, but this is not something I'm just hyped about. So, but it is also streaming for those of you who are not quite ready to go back to the theater, but want to see something new. And the city of Los Angeles announced that they're not reopening their theaters or indoor malls or any of that. So they're still not quite there yet. And I can't say that I blame them. I'm not ready to hit the movie theaters just yet either. So we'll see. And Tenet comes out next weekend. So keep an eye for Tenet and we'll see how that does. Also in news, Tia Mowry, she signed a 3-picture deal with Lifetime. So Lifetime is really diversifying their, I won't say their movie selections because I don't know what it's going to be. There's two. Lifetime is just tragic movies, so we'll see if this is going to be sugary tragic.
Hallmark is the good feeling ones, and then Lifetime is where you go to like get real angry and scared for life.
Yeah, so we will see if this is going to be like sugary tragic or if it's going to be stalkery tragic, but at least they're diversifying their tragic, so shout out to Tia Mowry. And also this weekend, we have Blackpink and Selena Gomez released their single on Friday, Ice Cream. And it is a cute song. I actually like the song. It's another little summer bop to play along with Dynamite by BTS. And the video is cute. Now there was some concern amongst the armies and the fans of the Blinks and the armies of whether or not Blackpink would unseat BTS and break their record.
Because they've done it for the last year and a half for every single that they come out with. Like Blackpink and BTS have been in competition on breaking each other's records every time. So that was a worry on like, are they going to break BTS record for Dynamite, seeing as how they're coming out with their new single, what is it, like a week after BTS?
Yeah. But they did not. They still got hella lot of views, 76 million views within a 24-hour period.
Ooh, so that didn't even beat their last single.
Oh, wow. Well, the Blinks still went hard, so.
I'm sure. That ain't nothing to cry about.
It's not. 76 million views. And as of last count before we started the show, they were hovering close to 100 million. So as we know, BTS got 101 million within their 24-hour release period for Dynamite. So we'll see. And the VMAs are also this weekend. Speaking of BTS, they'll be doing their first live performance of Dynamite. I'm really excited to check that out and see some live music. I have to air quotes, y'all didn't see that, but to see some quote unquote live music from the VMAs. And that was this week's Wind Down. Stay tuned as we continue on with Jack Ryan. We are talking about Jack Ryan, which is currently streaming on Amazon. And this is your requisite spoiler alert. All right. So Jack Ryan, this is the television adaptation of Tom Clancy's book series about CIA analyst and all-around badass Jack Ryan, who saved the world several times over.
And over again.
And over again. And there have been many attempts to turn this into a big time movie franchise going all the way back to the 90s with Alec Baldwin. He was the first one, I believe, to play Jack Ryan. Then Harrison Ford, Ben Affleck, and the last one was Chris Pine in 2014.
The only one I've ever seen was the Chris Pine one.
I remember, I think I saw The Hunt for Red October because it had Sean Connery in it, and I'm a huge Sean Connery fan. And I've seen them all, like not all of the Jack Ryan movies because there were more than I thought, but I've seen the big ones like Patriot Games, The Sum of All Fears, Clear and Present Danger, and of course The Hunt for Red October. I think the only one I haven't watched is the one with Chris Pine in it, which is amazing. So, but I think by then I was like, lukewarm on it, just like everyone else. And so when I heard that they were trying to turn it into a TV series, I was just like, okay. I wasn't all that excited. And then once they finally announced who they had cast as Jack Ryan, John Krasinski, I still wasn't all that excited because in my mind, he was Jim from The Office, and I'm not a big Office fan, even though Idris Elba did do like a season of The Office. You know?
I'm guessing they're showing your fandom for Idris Elba rather than for The Office.
Exactly.
I remember John Krasinski from, he did Zero Dark 30. And that's where, because I was not interested in the whole Jack Ryan thing. When I first heard it, like, I was just like, I'll watch it. Cause it's kind of like, I was comparing it to Jason Bourne. Like that was my comparison. And I was just like, can he really do it? Cause he acts like he's a silly character on The Office. Like that's not him. And then I saw him in Zero Dark 30 and I knew he could do the role.
Well, see, I didn't remember him from Zero Dark 30. I hadn't actually watched. It didn't click in my mind to make that comparison. I haven't seen Zero Dark 30 in a while since it first came out. So that just wasn't there. And like I said, I honestly, even though he is very attractive, he has that nerd attractiveness to him, which I kind of dig.
He got that boy next door look.
Yeah, and I kind of dig that. So I just had in my mind Jim from The Office. I didn't see him taking on this role. And so when season 1 premiered, I did watch it and I was hooked. I ended up binging it, not in a weekend, but in a night. it was that good. I watched
it was
all
only
the
8 episodes, right?
Yeah, but they're an hour each, so you know you start and but they were so good. And the thing I loved about season 1, you know, I'm really into writing and things like that, so I'll break down and analyze the writing, and I loved it. I loved the way they built up the characters. I loved how they even humanized the bad guys. They didn't make them stereotypical. In season 1, the bad guys were part of a terrorist cell in the Middle East, so they were Muslim, and they just didn't make them stereotypical bad guy Muslims. I hate America, blah, blah, blah. It actually took the time to show you how and why they were radicalized. Both sides of the coin, if not for different decisions made here and there. And I really, really loved that about the show. It took a different approach to it. And John Krasinski was great as Jack Ryan.
He was.
He brought something different to the character, something that I think the movies maybe were lacking. I don't know why this works for me better than the movies have thus far, but it really did. And I love Wendell Pierce. He plays James Greer, so I love him. He is an amazing actor. And I was so glad he came back during season 2. So season 2, which is what we're actually discussing today, picks up a little bit with the aftermath of what happened at the end of season 1. Greer has been shipped off to Russia. And Jack Ryan, he's barely hanging on at the CIA, and he gets a job in Venezuela. He has to go to Venezuela to check out the elections, which was very timely. And they end up working on the same case, so that's how they reconnect Greer and Ryan. And so this one was more about the geopolitics, I guess, especially about elections and election fraud in Venezuela, which could almost be made
real life.
Yeah, but we won't talk about that. So I actually found myself enjoying season 2 almost the same as season 1. I really didn't find it to be a letdown, and sometimes you think that there's going to be a letdown, but I really didn't have that experience that in season 2. What about you?
I don't know. Okay, now granted, it did take me almost a year to finally finish season 2 because season 2 came out last year, November. But and it took me a while, and but I finally sat down, quarantine, and watched all 8 episodes back to back to back, and it was really, really good. Now the one difference is what you mentioned from season 1 on not having the stereotypical villains. I do think that was one of the negatives of season 2, was I did feel like the villain in season 2 was stereotypical. That it was something like it was a villain that you see all the time. And so like that was the one thing, like I was just like, okay, like there was no reason to cheer for him. There was no reason to understand where he was coming from on his actions. Like they didn't really show how he got to the point that he did. And I'm talking about President Reyes in the show. Like they didn't really show how he got to that point. They just show him as being evil. So
yeah, they just should.
You couldn't sympathize with him like you did in first season with the radical terrorists that were formed. Like you realize why the brother got to that point, that he became the leader of that terrorist group. In this one, like it was just like they kind of went with the same old that I guess always works.
It picked up with him already being the kleptocratic. That's our vocabulary word for the day. It kept up with him being that dictator, that just autocratic dictator who's just stealing from his country and his money and who cares more about himself. Again, we could translate this to real life. More about himself and his power than his people. It doesn't show how or why he became corrupted. So I can see that, and I agree with that. It was a little bit stereotypical in that sense. So. I wholeheartedly understand that. And, what did you think about Numi replaced as Harry? I loved her.
Oh, well, I love Numi. Now the funny thing is that when she first came onto the scene, what's the character that automatically came to mind? Lisbeth Salander.
Salander.
So, where I'm just thinking like, yo, this is the same woman that did, what is it? With the dragon tattoo, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
The original version, the Swedish version, not the
good version of it. And so, but she did a phenomenal job. But I love to see her progression and her improvement on her skill. Her English is like, she's just phenomenal. Like I love her. So she was definitely a character that I was cheering for, even as you didn't know necessarily which side she was on.
Yeah. And that's what I like about it. Even though we agree that the villain may have been a little stereotypical and predictable, I love that there's always twists and turns. Like at one point, his opponent, you really didn't know if she was going to be, if her motives were pure as she said, or if ultimately she was going to be just like him. You know what I'm saying?
That's so you didn't know which way she was going to go.
Right. There were moments where it's like, okay, you think she's a good guy, but wait a minute, is she really going to be the bad guy? And I love that with Harry's character too. It's like you just didn't know, and you figure it out eventually. But I love that build up is to like, and I guess you need that, because even in a spy game, especially in the CIA, when you're that deep into it, even the people you think are your allies, there's still a level of distrust there. Just naturally, because you might be working for the same ends, but for different reasons. So I love that. And I love the progression also of the character, of Greer's character and Ryan's character. Like, I love their love-hate relationship. I love it. And the chemistry between John Krasinski and Wendell Pierce is amazing. Like, it's another bromance for the century for me. I just like their relationship.
Well, I just think that Greer kind of accepted Jack Ryan for who he was. Like he would do stuff and he would go against the rules, he would go against the directions that he was given, and he would just be like, like, you're not used to this yet? Like, I already know. You can tell him to do something, but if he just doesn't feel it's right, then he's not going to do it. That was the arrogance and the self-righteousness of Jack Ryan, which I hated and I kind of understood, but those were certain characteristics I was just like, oh, like, I know you're doing this because, you know, you're the main character and this is what you're supposed to be about. But I also hated the whole bucking the system, but then making wrong decisions at the same time and just keep going like you didn't just make a wrong decision. But I did like their friendship. I think that the first season it was more love-hate, and this season it was more on, we're on the same side, we're working for it, and I already know how you're going to be. So I'm just going to let you be you, because I know in the end you're going to solve all of this kind of thing.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna do you. Like, and I think it goes back to what you just said. I may not trust you. Not trust you. I may not like everything you do, but I know it's coming from a good place. I may not agree with it, but ultimately I know the more I fight against it, the more you're going to want to do it. So
do
just
it anyway.
Yeah, like, buckle up, enjoy the ride. And I think he knew that it was coming from a good place. Like, the intentions were pure, even if the decision was wrong, which, you know, I think that kind of shows the humanness of him. Jack Ryan, and like we said, he saves the world and he's a badass, but also he's flawed just like every other human being. So I think that kind of shows his humanness, or how human he is. But yeah, the arrogance, don't you think you kind of have to be a little arrogant to save the world, to like just be a badass spy? You have to have that confidence, that arrogance.
There's a difference between being confident and being arrogant. And I think that he was more arrogant than he was confident.
Well, don't you have to have a certain level of arrogance?
No,
like, confidence
to be honest, I don't think so. I think that's a cynical way of looking at it. Like, you don't have to have, because I consider arrogance to be a negative characteristic, and you don't necessarily have to have those negative characteristics in order to save the world and to be a badass. Like, you can have the confidence and know you're good, but at the same time, like, you don't literally have to spit in the face of everybody who's trying to do their job as well. And I think that's what Jack Ryan did through the whole season, is he spit in the face of everybody else who had a job to do, but because he felt his job was more important and he knew best, he was just like, well, F your job, like, I'm gonna do what I do, kind of thing. So, I mean,
was that more, you know what? And I kind of understand it when you put it that way. I understand what you're saying, but I think I do get, I'm not gonna, don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. There are moments where he does come across as purely arrogant and he won't listen. And I understand that. But do you think some of it could just have to do with the natural distrust that we spoke about that comes along with the job, especially when you're in a country where you don't know who's trying to kill you, and it seems like everyone's trying to kill you and everyone is against you? So, you know, I think maybe some of what you saw as arrogance, I may have interpreted as just natural distrust because of the nature of the job.
But he even distrusted the people that ended up working with him as well. Like, he distrusted Mike. He distrusted Mike's ex-wife, who had to do her job in that country. And he made it harder for her to do her job so much that she ended up having to fully leave the country in order to save her and her people. That's what I mean about the arrogance. Like, I understand it's a TV show and he has to be badass. And we showcase badass as being arrogant and not following the rules all the time. I get that. But, you know, realistically, I'm just like, I consider it to just be arrogance. It's stuff that he did that he didn't necessarily have to do, but I mean, he gets the end result, so it's all okay because it's Jack Ryan. So, you know, kind of thing.
Also, ultimately, in the end, he does end up being betrayed by his mentor, the senator, you know. So, like I said, I think some of...
Which says that America is behind all of it.
Conspiracy theory 101.
I'm telling that was like a perfect. I mean, you knew it was gonna happen. You knew that the senator was behind everything. Like, there were so many hints, but when it finally came out, you were just like, I literally just like shrugged my shoulders, just like, yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, you know, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, I get what you're saying about the arrogance. I do. But I think also a lot of it, especially, you know, in the nature of the business, we just kind of saw some of the things a little differently. Like, a lot of the things you're saying were arrogance, I'm chalking up to mistrust. But
that's the reason why we have the popcorn wind down, because we see the same things in a very different way.
Exactly. And we like the same things, but we like them for very different reasons. So his arrogant mistrust it did complicate things for a lot of people. But ultimately, I was really pleased with season 2. Like I said, it didn't necessarily have the letdown that some season 2 or some second seasons have, or follow-up seasons have, after very successful, unexpectedly so, first seasons.
That's true. It didn't go through the second season slump. I'll agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I love how, and especially, you know, it told a new, fresh story. Like, and I love the fact that, okay, we've already been to the Middle East. We told that story. We're not going to keep harping on that. And I love that, you know. So it found another story to tell about the geopolitical unrest in different countries in Venezuela. Since the CIA can't, quote unquote, legally operate in the US, I don't know how domestic focused the show will ever become, but that could be a whole nother, that would be great.
So I was thinking about this right as we were talking. And so what I noticed is they went from one country with brown people to another country with more brown people. So where are you going next?
Well, they might as well just go.
Are we going to Africa? Are we going to next?
That's what I was going to say. You might as well just go on and go to Africa.
Let's go to Australia.
Let's go to Australia next. Let's go to Russia.
Ooh,
that's where we need to go.
Yes, definitely.
So Amazon and the creators at Jack Ryan, the writers, the
Season 3, Russia.
Season 3, just go ahead, take the show to Russia, because we know That's where you need to be. Leave
Africa. You want some
Africa.
Real stories? Go to Russia. Do your storyline from Russia.
Leave Africa alone. Leave Asia alone for the time being, and just take your butts on over to Russia. Get the real dirt. But I really do think that would be really interesting to tell a story, especially with everything that's going on. And if you wanted to bring into some of the domestic politics here in the U.S. And highlight some of those things, you could actually do a Russian-based story. And not too many people do that. Like, we haven't had too many spy shows focus on Russia here lately, but I think that would be really interesting. So that is our take on what they should do in season 3. And we know season 3 is going to be delayed probably.
But it is approved. It is coming.
It is approved. It is coming. So it's already been approved for season 3, which I'm really happy about. One thing that I noticed a lot of fans were kind of upset about, and one thing I did not miss, and I really didn't notice it actually until I was reading the message boards about it, is that Abby Cornish was missing from this season, and she played his love interest in the woman who eventually becomes his wife, the doctor, from the first season, and I didn't miss her. And in the first season,
she don't serve no purpose.
And that's the thing. In the first season, I know they introduced her, and I know fans of the series know who she is or who she's going to be, but I wasn't impressed with their chemistry. I really didn't like her character.
It was a horrible cast. I didn't approve. I didn't like that casting. I thought that she was miscast. Is it miscast?
Yes.
That role was miscasted with Abby Cornish. Like, she's a subpar actress. I'm gonna just put that out there. So yeah, no.
Okay. I was just gonna say I didn't think I was gonna say I didn't think they had great chemistry. I wasn't crazy about her character in season 1. And it took me a moment to realize, actually, when I was watching season 1, that, oh my gosh, she is the future Mrs. Jack Ryan. So, and part of the reason I understand why they didn't have her in there is because the first part of Jack Ryan season 1 is really introductory, and he's based at home in Washington, D.C. So he has more of a life. You see his background.
He's in America for part of it, yeah.
Right. But this part, in this show, he's barely in America at all. Like, I think it's part of the first episode, and then maybe part of the last
episode, and that's it.
And that's it. So putting her in season 2 would have really just been forcing the issue. And some people are like, well, they could have had a phone call, or they could have written and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, eh.
But that love interest is to humanize him, right? Like, so her character is supposed to humanize him, to show that, he feels things, like he's not just this badass spy, but he has relationships but I feel like it wasn't needed, because he was still humanized in season 2 without her character. Like, understood it based on the friendship that he had with the senator. I believe it was a senator that died, or the Secretary of State, whatever his character was, when he died. That showed, that humanized him enough. She wasn't necessary. I'm gonna just put that out there.
Well, in the books, she actually plays a big role. Like, she's a badass doctor herself, which we kind of got an idea of in the first season. And they actually have a kid, a daughter. So she plays a bigger role in the books and things like that.
Doesn't always translate well to TV and movies, though.
Yeah, and so I really was not, like I said, I really wasn't crazy about her. So if they bring her back in season 3, and since we're retelling and we're reimagining, I would be okay with him having other love interests until he gets to the point of, of actually getting married, if we get that far into the series. But I wasn't just stuck on her, and like I said, I didn't miss it. I didn't miss her. I didn't notice it until I went on message boards and saw other people complaining about it. I'm like, oh, okay. But it wasn't like, oh, that was what's missing, or why wasn't she in there? It didn't even dawn on me, like, so we will see. overall, what would you rate this season or Jack Ryan series as a whole?
3 popcorns.
3 popcorns. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Middle of the road. Like I really enjoyed it. I did. I remember. I don't remember all of season 2. As you were talking about it, things started to pop up into my mind. I really loved season 2. I binge watched season 2. I'm sorry. I really loved season 1. I binge watched season 1 when it first premiered. For season 2, like, you lose a popcorn because it literally took me almost a year to actually sit down and watch it. And then I think the whole arrogance and self-righteous, as well as the popcorn villain that they had in the series, definitely takes away some of the momentum for me. I love the chemistry of the other characters. I think it flowed very well. But I would give it 3, maybe like 3.5, but I'm not going to 4 for it. So yeah, the most they would get is 3.5 popcorns. That's my rating.
You're fine. Okay, is that your final rating?
That's my final rating, 3.5 popcorns.
You're sticking to 3.5 popcorns?
I'm sticking to 3.5 popcorns.
Okay, well, I am going to give it 3.75 popcorns. So it's almost a full bucket of popcorn, okay? This is what happened with the popcorn. So it's like, as soon as you get it, you know, and you turn and then you accidentally stumble over your foot.
And you spill some of it.
You spill some of it. That's what happened with the popcorn. It's like, and it was the fresh, hot batch of popcorn too. So you were pissed that you missed that little quarter top of your popcorn. But, you know, for the is again, no pun intended, for the popcorn villain, you know, I think we could have delved a little bit more in Reyes's past. We knew why his opponent was running. We saw her history, but, you know, again, most villains don't just become villains overnight. And I understand you can't tell all of the backstory, especially when you're dealing with a movie. But when you have a show, I think you can do a little bit more than just introduce them as this maniac, especially one like this, when you're dealing with geopolitical issues and spy issues. So I can agree with that. But yeah, other than that, I loved it. Like I said, I was really impressed that it didn't suffer from that second season slump. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 3.75 popcorns, almost a full 4 buckets, a full bucket. But yeah, that's where I land on it. And I can't wait to see season 3, hopefully sometime before the end of time.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
You know, and hopefully 2021 will treat us better than 2020 did. But until next time, we will be reviewing The Power Project. So until then, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.